What's up, guys? It's Hegemony, and the PvP Manifesto and patch notes teaser is here. Chris says Nick has posted a development manifesto about various PvP design and balance scaling changes in 1.3.0. We'll be posting the full patch notes tomorrow, but I've included a small section of them in today's news post. Added a new intelligence skill, Kinetic Blast. Fires a projectile from a wand that causes a series of small explosions surrounding its point of impact. Each damage enemies caught in the area. Available from Lost in Love quest from the Witch and Shadow. Now they said that this ability does not overlap, or its projectiles don't overlap, so it's pretty interesting. Added a new dexterity skill, Blink Arrow. Fires an arrow at the target's destination. When the arrow lands, you are teleported to it, and the clone is summoned at your location. The clone is a minion that uses your bow and quiver, available from the Lost of Love quest for the Duelist, Ranger, Shadow, and Scion. Added a new dexterity skill, Mirror Arrow. Fires an arrow at its target's destination. When the arrow lands, a clone is summoned. The clone is a minion that uses your bow and quiver. This is really cool mirror images type thing where you can choose where you want to go as far as, you know, teleportation and decoys. Very cool in PvP. It's like a must-have for any archer, regardless of what kind. Added a new strength intelligence skill, Static Strike. Strike your enemies, building upon up static energy on you. The energy damages enemies around you when it expires. Available from Enemy at the Gate quest for Templar and Marauder, and from the Mercy Mission quest for the Duelist and Witch. Now, I have had a lot of testing with this, and it seems to really reward attack speed, but at the same time there is a delay on the skill, and it's not something that you could just like hit something and then run away. You have to stick around for the explosion. So I found it quite tedious. I tried doing it at the earliest levels, with just like leveling up a Marauder and going to ledge, and it seemed really slow. Molten Strike I still find far superior. Ground Slam still superior in my opinion. And I tried this with my crit Duelist Wukong, and it was kind of explosive and kind of random. I don't know if they're gonna adjust these numbers, but I'll show it when it comes out, when the patch hits. I'll show you guys on a fully developed character with lots of AoE crit and how to scale it. It works pretty well with heralds, but other than that, the actual function, I really dislike the delay. Added a new strength skill, Reckoning. Perform a swift counterattack against enemies in a cone shape when you block with your shield. Available from the Intruder's Black Quest from Templar, Marauder, Duelist, Ranger, and Scion. Added a new strength skill, Vengeance. Chance to perform a swift counterattack against all enemies around you when you are hit. Weapon range increases the area of this attack. So two-handed axes are going to have the best range, and I guess it's going to have the best AoE. Added a new dexterity skill, Ripost. Perform a deadly counterattack when you block. Uses both weapons while you're dual wielding. This one was the one that underwent the most balancing. It was quite OP, and they had to tone it down I think a couple times, but very potent in PvP. Even after the nerfs, it's still really good. Added a new intelligence strength support gem, Physical to Lightning. Now this is the gem I've been wanting to talk about now that it's actually released. It's physical to lightning damage, so it allows you to take something like either Bear Trap or an EK and make it more elemental. So very interesting as we shift into a elemental friendly meta. In other news, a lot of fun was had in the office today playing with the PvP pre-constructed characters. The level 28 PvP only character templates that you can create once you've met Leo now have the option of starting with a developer designed passive tree and set of magic items that can't be traded, modified, or removed from the character. These pre-constructed characters are a great start if you want to jump right into PvP, but are designed to encourage you to replace their gear to improve their viability against strong, non-pre-constructed PvP builds. Very, very cool. I have not seen this feature before, but let's check out the development manifesto. This is from Nick, who I've been, had the pleasure of talking to on the forum and in the alpha server. He seems to be doing a lot of the balancing along with Rory. 1.3.0 puts player versus player combat in the spotlight from a development perspective. That means there's a lot of time spent playing, watching, and messing around with PvP and our PvP damage scaling algorithm. We have this algorithm because many players deals magnitude more damage than life pools can possibly reach. There are also damage disparities between builds. Without scaling, fights at high level would be over in a fraction of a second, and at very low levels would always end in a draw. Prior to 1.3.0, all damage dealt between players was funneled through a damage scaling algorithm. In general, this reduced the damage of most attacks and spells. It did this regardless of the type of skill or damage. The PvP scene, although small, is very developed. Pre 1.3.0, the best builds were well established, and outside of freeze pulse, elemental damage was barely seen in low level fights and only splashed onto skills through supports in high level fights in an effort to push a little damage through immortal calls. Bear Trap, Ethereal Knives, Whirling Blades, Puncture, and Tornado Shot dominated the scene. While there is still a lot of build diversity, the lack of elemental options in skilled low-level PvP was an issue. While great for tuning damage broadly, the algorithm treated elemental and physical damage equally, and the damage cutting of the algorithm ultimately was not harsh enough. Battles would be won and lost in a matter of seconds, which led to block and dodge forms of total mitigation becoming the sole meaningful way of surviving. With 1.3.0, damage scaling has changed. It has been split into two algorithms, one for physical damage and chaos damage, and one for elemental. In low-level play, damage is reduced by about 20% for physical skills, but is increased for elemental to compensate for assumed resistances. In high-level play, the damage reduction is much sharper. In both tiers, the ability to one-shot your opponent is now very difficult. This is in combination to changes in acrobatics keystone and block values on items and the tree. Means the total damage mitigation is a helpful if unpredictable bonus rather than the game-winning factor. Game lengths have increased to be more satisfying and give opportunities for moment-to-moment tactical decisions rather than crossing your fingers and hoping your opponent doesn't land a lucky crit. The changes meant to reassess most of our skills. Almost all of the skills have dominated in the old meta have had their damage reduced in one way or another to bring them closer in power of others. The result during alpha testing was a wide variety of builds. Crit Dagger, Dual Strikers, Fireball Trappers, Sword and Shield Heavy Strikers, Spark Casters, Summoners, Burning Arrow Rangers, and others have done very well in matchups. The scaling algorithms as of the most 1.3.0 alpha builds are this. For elemental damage, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we can see some of the ones that are tuned. Discharge, Lightning Warp, Firestorm, Tempest Shield, Molten Shell, Bear Trap, Double Strike, Cyclone, Tendrils, Fireball, Tornado Shot, Freezing Pulse. 20% less damage in PvP on Tornado Shot. 20% less damage for Freeze Pulse. And even with this, it's still strong. Whirling Blades, 30% less damage in PvP. This was actually at 40%, but I guess they decided to reduce that. Arc is 10% less damage in PvP. Static Strike, 25% less. Ripost, 60% less. Yeah, this is the one that was done big time. I think it was kind of like face value, then they put it at 40, and then they decided, okay, we're gonna bump it up to 60. Reckoning, 40% less in PvP. Vengeance 40% less. Ball Lightning 15% more damage in PvP. Flame Blasts, I'm not sure what that is. Supports that override PvP scaling on hit damage. Trap. So Trap was nerfed. Remote Mine is nerfed. Skills that override PvP scaling on damage over time. Puncture does not apply PvP damage scaling to the dot, but in PvP halves the duration instead. This is a big time nerf for Puncture, especially when it comes to duration, but it was definitely warranted, and I can tell you it is still strong. I've done extensive testing with Puncture, Traps, Freeze Pulse, what else have we seen? Tempest Shield, Tornado Shot. Tornado Shot is still strong even with the nerf. Whirling Blades is super weak, but it shouldn't be a main skill. It should just be like a utility skill to provide mobility or get a cull, you know, last second thing. Arc is still strong. Arc is pretty strong. We tested that. We haven't seen any Ball Lightning or Flame Blasts. Ground effect PvP scaling. Fire damage per minute scaled with an assumed T of 24 seconds. Desecrated ground. Okay. I haven't had any chance to test any of these. We've also reduced the dominance of crowd control skills in PvP. Chill, Freeze, and Shock and Ignite have their duration cut in half by default against players. And Temporal Change, the undisputed Curse King in PvP, has had the 40% reduction against players by default. This is insanely needed. I've been petitioning Temp Chains being like the mecha, you know, only choice. You're stupid to not run Temp Chains because mobility is everything, and people have been buffing the shit out of it by like running it with Enhance and Empower. It's been just so, like you just get crippled. Throw cold damage on top of Temp Chains and you can't even move. It's like you're stun locked. It's like near perma frozen. But now that it's cut 40% base, it's pretty amazing. It's much more balanced. It still slows you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the duration should be increased a little bit, but I guess they didn't feel the same way. But yeah, let's go. Feedback from the new from a few dozen PvP testers we've had in alpha have broadly been positive, but we know it's not perfect yet. We'll be carefully assessing tournaments of all types for balance tweaks that need to be made, both in the algorithms to particular skills that may be overkill or underperforming. I know I speak for everyone when I say we're excited to hear your feedback with the PvP relaunches in a few days. With your help, we hope to have an amazing competitive scene for years to come. Really, really cool. These are, you know, super good balances for high-level dueling, and I'm sure they're great for low-level, giving people other options. But I'm really, really excited. It's finally PvP getting some love. Some of this stuff coming out, physical to lightning. I'm super excited about that. Can't wait to test it out, especially with all the penetrations. We'll see how this goes. I hope you guys like this. If you guys like this video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll continue to do more teasers as they're released. We have a big day tomorrow. Chris is going to post the finalized patch notes for the upcoming Bloodlines and new challenge leagues. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.